Coach Hunt should be directing.
Okay, I'm Heidi, and this is all about legal issues in sports. And you'll have to excuse all the transitions. That was a requirement for this one teacher. And to show that we knew how to do them. First off, this is how to avoid injuries, how to avoid getting yourself in legal problems with sports. And I'm not going to read everything to you, but I promise once I get to some stuff that will pertain to you, I'll stop and I'll go slow and explain it because it's so easy to prevent. First off, this is just a representation, I know you can't read this, but of the different types of sports injuries. The big one right here in pink, this is sprains, strains, etc. And then the one that most people are always keyed into right here, concussions, okay? Then we have contusions, fractures, and other. This one's contusions, fractures, and other. Okay? Now, that one was during actual game time. It also occurs during practice. And if you look, something's going on with practice because the kids aren't being as safe. Okay? The number of sprains and strains goes up exponentially. Okay? High school athletes suffer 2 million injuries, 500,000 doctor visits, and that's just in the United States, and 30,000 hospitalizations. The history of injury, that means that a kid's already been injured before, is one of the major factors for another injury. And 96% of Americans feel it's important for young athletes to be evaluated by a quality health professional, which you guys do. You guys all have the pre-exam before they come out for sports, so no big deal on that. You guys are doing the right thing. Okay? Sports-related injury facts. This is just about concussions because that's the hot topic now. Okay, 400,000 brain injuries or concussions occurred in the 2008-2009 school year. 15.8% of football players who sustain a concussion severe enough to cause loss of consciousness return to play the same day. That's the big thing. When they return to play, that's what's going to cause the problems, the legal issues. Okay, females aged 10 to 19
Dr.
years
Martin, Dr. Chris Martin,
sustain sports and recreation-related traumatic brain injuries, TBIs, most often while playing soccer or basketball or while bicycling. Bicycling is actually the biggest cause of concussions. Okay. Here's some of other ones: asthma, cardiac arrest, and exertional sickling. Sickling has to do with sickle cell anemia, okay? These are the 3 or 4 other types of injuries that you have to watch out for. Okay, heat illness, okay, biggest one. And if you look at this, the biggest factor or reason why kids are having heat illnesses is because they're not coming in adequately hydrated. That's the biggest thing. 2/3 of kids show up for practice at least significantly dehydrated. Okay, that's almost, 66%. Okay, high school athletes, especially males, are at the highest risk of suffering exertional heat illness, requiring treatments in the U.S. hospital emergency rooms. I know that you had a player that actually went out on you, so you guys have to really watch and push that water. Another one, this one just talks about steroids, that kids are using protein drinks, they're using steroids, they're doing all kinds of things, and it's because they have that low self-esteem. But if you guys keep on pushing the weight room, they'll see that they get better gains and that they last longer than all the artificial. Okay? Cervical and spine-related injuries and neck injuries. Cheerleading is the #1 cause of these, not football. Not you guys with football. Okay. Everyone always thinks that it's the coach who's going to get sued first. Actually, the athlete is the first one who has assumption of risk. It starts with the athlete. After that, it's the medical personnel. okay? Whether it's your trainers or if it's game time situation and you have a doctor, they're the ones who are the second in line to get sued. The governing body or the association, which would be GHSA, okay, and the school. And then finally after that, or I guess the school is down here with the coaches, after that it's the coaches and the school. Okay, as long as you guys can prove that you've done everything, then you're good. Okay, here's the participant's role. Okay, by participating, the athlete assumes all risk. However, it's not simply playing the sport that's leading to the problems. Okay, here's the interesting part. In a study of 167 athletes in football, soccer, basketball, and cheerleading, 89% reported that they had had a concussion, but only 17 kids out of those 167 athletes, or 15.9%, reported this injury to a coach. If they don't tell you guys, then it's not your fault, okay? And the reason why they don't want to tell the coach is they don't want to be taken out of the game, they don't want to let their team down, they don't think it was serious enough, and they didn't think that they were hurt. Okay, the medical personnel, okay, these people have to make the proper decisions on it. Okay, we'll take the kids to Mark, he'll check them, he'll make sure when you guys have your doctor out there during games, that person will check, and that takes all the role. All you have to do is push them towards the sideline. That's your role. Okay. This talks about when medical personnel, it doesn't really affect you, but when they don't follow the rules, they end up getting in trouble. Okay? The governing body's role in sports. Okay, we talked about the athlete has to say something, the medical personnel have to follow the rules, and the governing body, they have to provide programs for you guys. And when they don't follow it, there's lawsuits. Every single one of these that I researched had lawsuits associated with it. Okay, and then here's your role, the coach's role. You have to properly assess the athlete's injury. If the athlete's limping or whatever, they are obviously hurt. You did a good job today, Dan, with that kid who said that when he came down off of the pull-up, he
hit something.
Yeah, he hit his funny bone or something on the dip bars. And you just told him you need to sit out instead of saying rub it off and go back into it. Because you don't know whether the kid's, he could have tweaked his elbow. I mean, my daughter broke her elbow when she was, I don't know how old, but, you never know with kids, okay? Then, if it's something real serious, make sure that they get clearance before they come back, and make sure that they talk to the medical personnel, send them over to the trainer, okay?
Yes.
When they don't?
Yeah, guys, especially in the weight room, never try to push them too hard, because we actually was in a lawsuit a couple years ago. Kid hurt his back and said, I told him he had to squat that, and he hurt his, I of course didn't do that, but he was trying to get money out of the school.
Yeah, and they will. This is a liturgical society. They're going to sue everybody. Okay, when the coaches don't follow it, okay, this is just another example of a lawsuit. Lawsuit after lawsuit. Okay, 3 ways to prevent athletic injury. Make use of the educational program, which I'll show you some more in a second. Use approved or certified safe equipment, which I saw you guys doing today, and when you're fitting the helmets, and follow all safety rules and policies. Okay, educational programs. These help the coaches and they help the athletes. Okay, there's different ones, Heads Up. I know you guys have heard of that with the concussion training, and there's also the NHSA, National High School Association, provides different ones. And it doesn't just talk about physical safety, it talks about bullying and hazing, etc., which goes on more frequently than we want to believe. We heard something on the radio this morning on the way here. Okay. Again, if you don't make use of it and document it, which is a big thing, the documentation will save your butt. But if you don't make use of them and document them, 2 examples of lawsuits. The first one was in response to this coach was accused of failure to report child abuse. Okay, kid got abused and coach knew about it, didn't say anything. The coach was held liable. Okay, the other one, this was a female coach having sex with a male student. Okay, one of her athletes, she ended up losing her teaching certificate. Okay, examples of educational programs. You can even go on to video series. You don't have to go to these places, and you can document that you watched it. Okay? Another way is using the safe equipment, such as when you guys were doing the helmet fittings today. That's big. Okay? It's got to be certified equipment, which I know you guys send your stuff off each year at the end of the year to get reconditioned. So as long as you keep, and I know your records, you probably got them since you started. Okay? As long as you keep records, then you're good. Now I have some more of my transitions here. There we go. And this one was just a graphic that I put in, and it has to do with explaining why these specific helmets are good, and it has something to do with the rotation of the brain. And there's a layer of fluid, and the rotation of the brain is decreased by 40 to 50%, they said, with these type of helmets.
What helmet is it? Is it listed?
It's called the helmet that might save football, and I've got the reference at the end, but it explains it.
It's a future helmet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it hasn't been released?
What's that?
It hasn't been released?
I don't think it's been released yet, because I just did this program or presentation in April, and it was brand new information, but this part of the helmet, it looks like rotates. And it has something to do, it says, the results in lab tests, MIPS, reduces brain rotation by as much as 40 to 50%. So it had to do something with the layers and holding onto the brain, and it only allows the head to turn a certain amount, but it does allow it to turn some. And it had to do with the rotation of, and I want to say it had something to do with the slippery cerebral spinal fluid, which sits between the brain and the skull. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. Okay, here's another one. This is an app that you guys can put on your iPhones, your smartphones. Okay, it has to do with heat index, and it has to do with lightning strikes, etc. It's $1.99 by Coach Smart, and it'll basically, by proving that you have that and that you've used it, okay, it will save your butts on that. Now, the next thing I'll go into is, oops, or in a second it'll go into using the app, and that with GHSA you actually have to sign a form. Actually, I believe you do, that
Our head trainer and I do have to sign that we check it each day.
yeah, that you check it, and that there's a sliding scale based on how much, what the heat index is versus the time of rest, etc. Okay? The GHSA, which is the Georgia High School Athletics Association, has a set of policies and procedures in place to help reduce the number of sports-related injuries. Okay? Concussion guidelines. Any athlete suspected of having a concussion must see the appropriate healthcare professional, so we send them over to Mark, may not return to practice the day after the episode. Forget the day of, not even the day after, and should be medically cleared and should follow a gradual return to play protocol. Okay? Heat and humidity. The scheduling of practices at various heat and humidity levels has to be followed. The ratio of workout time to time allotted for rest and hydration and various heat and humidity levels has to be followed, and the heat and humidity levels will result in practice being terminated. Okay? So there's a sliding scale. And this just talks about, with the concussions, the number, this is non-organized sports, individual leisure time sports, and organized sports. Obviously, football's on there. The reason why football is has such a high prevalence of concussions is because there's more kids involved. Okay? When they did it on a ratio, okay, not just a number, but when they did it on a ratio, ice hockey was the highest. So that's something to take heart with. Okay, follow all rules. Okay, $300,000 judgment. Okay, from Pennsylvania. This is a soccer. Okay, and I mean, it could have been avoided. All these could have been avoided. Another legal battle okay? And this is the big thing that they want to push, is that you need to be nice to the families. When a kid gets hurt, call the family and say, hey, I just wanted to check on so-and-so, okay? The school is so afraid, but if they would, the legal people say that if the school would reach out, if the coaches would reach out and say, hey, how's he doing? They'd probably reduce the number of lawsuits by over 50%. Okay? I want to thank you guys. I appreciate you guys sitting here so patiently. Any questions? We good? I'll look up that football one on the end slide.
What was that app called again?
Coach Smart, I believe it is, $1.99, Smart.
Yeah, I've got weather bug on my phone, which gives lightning strikes, which I tell you, down in Florida, you gotta have. And we weren't allowed to go out anything 6 miles, 6 to 10 miles.
Yeah.
And the trainer had one.